Well, good morning, everybody. Wherever you are, it's morning our time. We're in our new studio. We're still testing out some of the new stuff, but excited to be here, man. And
Yes.
I can't wait to kick things off. So, welcome to the show. Kyle, how are we doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, it's the day before Thanksgiving. Really excited. Going to be a low-key one.
Yes.
We're doing the little small marathon tomorrow.
I don't know if I'd call it a marathon.
Half marathon, 1.5 mile loop for families. For me, that's a marathon. No, they have a half marathon.
They have a 5K.
Oh, it's not 13?
No.
Oh.
But you could do 13 if you wanted to.
No,
I think you could do 13. I know you could.
I'm just doing the 1.5.
I know, but you could do 13 if you wanted to. Put your mind to it.
Lots to be thankful for.
Yes.
For this week. Lots of gratitude, which is something we definitely focus
100%.
on with our program. And very gracious to have great guests like we have today.
Absolutely. And as a reminder, we are the co-founders of Peak Fulfillment Coaching, where we send people on self-guided solo retreats.
Yes.
To, again, cut through that noise, that fog, ultimately come back with clarity, all those limiting beliefs gone, and a vision forward.
Absolutely.
And we love what we do, and we are so thankful every day for that. So today we've got an incredible guest in the startup space, and she's kind of an expert in that world, and we know that the audience loves that. So without further ado, let's bring on Dani Kellogg, the co-founder of ProductColab. Dani, welcome to the show.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to chat with y'all.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here and really excited to hear more we love the startup space and love people that can collaborate and jump on board with that. Where are you based out of? We didn't talk about that.
I'm in Seattle.
Oh, nice. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
You're pretty close to us. We're down in Oregon. So same time zone.
Very nice.
Same area. So very, very close. Well, yeah. Thank you so much again for being here. Dani, why don't you give the audience here a little background into what you're working on? I think that might be a great place to jump in, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so ProductColab is essentially growth consulting for very early stage startups.
Okay.
Also, apologize to the listeners. There's construction outside of my house there, so just felt the need to mention that. I've been in the startup space for a decade at this point. So all of it in very early stage. I started off, my origin was in kind of early stage bootstrap startup, third hire, where you have no money and no team. And that's pretty much where I spent my career. As of about a year and a half ago, I've kind of transitioned out of, working with as an employee at a startup over to consulting. We say growth, but it's pretty much anything you need us to do for you. We kind of have a pretty broad scope of skill set after spending so long in the space, that whether it's marketing, product strategy, operations, optimization, things like that. So that's what we work on. We work with clients, typically larger, a handful of larger clients versus a bunch of small ones. And we try to build relationships. We don't like to just kind of go away and do our homework and turn it in. So we build these relationships and act as more of like a growth partner, more of an embedded team, whatever we can.
I love that. It's so important to build that relationship, especially when you're doing, pretty much sounds like fractional, like operations and and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We do anything from advising, whether it's a client that just kind of wants to pick our brains once a week, to I have a couple of fractional clients. I'm right now fractional head of marketing with Waller AI, which is kind of a production AI, monitoring things like that at scale for AI models. So whether it's you need like a fractional CMO or CTO, we do that. Or all the way down to just, hey, you need somebody to write web copy or give you advice. So we don't like to kind of be too prescriptive with what that relationship looks like.
That's wow. Very cool. So not necessarily in the same categories like an incubator, right?
Not necessarily. I think that, sometimes we say it's an agency, sometimes we say it's a consultancy, sometimes a studio. We tend to not like labels. I think that, eventually we would love to kind of grow into something like that, being able to nurture early stage startups in more of a, kind of like an incubator studio atmosphere. We're not quite there yet, but that's the direction that we're going. And when I say we, my business partner, his name is Nick Galuzzo. I'm much more on the marketing go-to-market side. He handles a lot of the product engineering side. So together we kind of like fit together like a puzzle a little bit there and cover the whole landscape.
Wow.
I mean, the name explains collaboration, right? I mean, you just call it a partner, like
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
makes sense just calling it like ProductColab.
Totally,
I love
it's a great
the
name
branding.
for it. Yeah,
it's
I love it.
Yeah.
Are you working with partners primarily, outside partners that come in and help these startups, or is it you guys maintaining marketing, customer service? Like, how does that work? Are there?
Yeah, it's mostly us. So we, like I mentioned, we try to be embedded in the team. So whether it's a shared Slack channel, or whether it's I have an email address and I'm in your Slack channel. Right now we try to be as hands-on as possible. Like I said, like we've spent our whole career here. We love doing that. Like we are builders and creators at heart. So, when we can be involved, we want to be. When we need to for larger products or projects, we have subcontractors we'll work with. Eventually, we'd love to build out more of a full-fledged team, more partners that we can kind of offer more robust services for. But right now, we kind of try to, we try to be involved as much as we can directly.
That's so cool.
What's the origin? How did you get started in this? What was your kind of introduction to having this kind of company?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, been in kind of the early stage. And when I say early stage, so we've been through, as far as companies we've worked at, basically bootstrapped, like talking like started when we were the only employees, me and my partner Nick, all the way through about Series C. So for those that aren't familiar, Series C is just kind of like a fundraising round for startups, usually about up to like 200 people ish, which is still feels big to us, but very small in the large scheme of things. And as you know, there's been a lot of layoffs in the tech industry, and that's very easy to happen when you're working with a very small company. So that was kind of where it started. I was with a French company that was expanding into the U.S. market. They hired a U.S. marketing team, and it was Series A, so very small. They had to pull back. Their runway was running out. They laid off the entire U.S. marketing team, including me. And then that's kind of where the conversation started with me and Nick. We were like, well, what if instead of just working for another startup, we just start our own, right? It seemed just as volatile to be a business owner in this climate as it did to join another startup. And this way we get to work with even more cool products. So that's kind of how it originated. And it kind of just has evolved from there. It started off more as focused on fractional, and then we realized we can kind of take on different types of relationships.
Okay.
And we really let it evolve organically as much as we could.
Jeez, that is so cool. Where did your passion in marketing stem from? You've done marketing prior with that French company, and then now you were leading most of the marketing initiatives and things with this current company. Where did that passion come from?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say I kind of took the scenic route into where I ended up. So like I don't have like a marketing proper degree or anything. My degree is in history and library studies. I realized it's interesting to me, but it's not what I want to do for a career. And I kind of taught myself how to code, got into tech. I wanted to be in that kind of fast moving industry. And I really just took whatever job I could get into tech. My original title was customer success, but obviously when there's 5 employees in a company, you do more than just that, right? And so as I was with those startups, I kind of just narrowed down my skills. I ended up focusing more on product education, whether it's documentation, whether it's writing blogs, whether it's growth, essentially like anything customer facing. And that just kind of naturally evolved into marketing. And I realized that's what I've loved all along. I've kind of always been an entrepreneur at heart. Back in high school and college, I was always trying to start little things. And looking back now, I realize it's just because I liked marketing and trying to make websites and stuff.
That's amazing. What a cool story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So what's the process kind of like when the discovery process with the client with you? I feel like because you guys are so broad, do they usually come to you with a specific need and then you kind of dive in, you're like, oh, here's really where the issue is, kind of like when a car's being messed up and you go in and look at the engine, you're like,
open the hood up.
It's actually the hose over there that you need to fix. What's the whole kind of onboarding look like with you guys?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we try to be as authentic and organic as we can. I think a lot of consulting can kind of want to fit you into a specific bucket, and we really just try to understand, like get a full lay of the land, what is your onboarding process? What are you doing right now? What's your current problem? Oftentimes you're right. Like they think it's one thing and it's really another. So it might be that, I can't close deals. But it might not be that you're not saying the right thing in the sales process. It might be that you're not bringing in the right leads in the first place. Right. Which could really come back to like, are you telling the right story? Are you, articulating their pain points in the right way? Are you going after the right customer? Is your product something they even want? So it really does require us to kind of like look under every stone, and just kind of get into their head with what they're working on. I will say it's definitely kind of difficult when you talk to a client and they're kind of like, okay, well, give me a plan, tell me exactly what you're going to do. And I'm like, well, it doesn't always work like that. You kind of we have to have conversations. We have to align around like, something's not going to happen overnight. We have to understand like the trade-offs between like how deep we can go and the velocity that we can go and stuff like that. So it really has to be this organic conversation and understand and help us communicate back to them the trade-offs that they have to be willing to make in terms of the plan and the budget and everything that the resources that they have available.
Okay. Wow. That makes a lot of sense.
How often do you find and kind of look at the team dynamics, right? You want to make sure you're a leader, not a manager. Do you find that very often with past clients where it's more of an issue of the culture's off or the team needs to be kind of, I don't know, the communication needs to be corrected?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of times people can feel like these internal processes and internal tools, it's like, oh, it's fluff, I can worry about that later.
Yep.
And they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit because it's like, I've worked for companies that are these kind of high-tech companies, but yet like their data isn't good, or they're still working out of emailing PowerPoints back and forth to each other and stuff that is just inefficient. Something that I always try to advocate for, which sometimes I feel silly repeating so much, is that you need to be as transparent as possible really in the early stage. Don't have DMs everywhere. That's not helping anyone, right? Like the more that you can talk transparently, that's going to help people, either somebody else learn, somebody else maybe have an aha moment for another client or another lead. Do that as transparently as possible and give your employees as much autonomy as possible, because when they're afraid of making mistakes, they're not going to do good work.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I see founders, if they don't have that gut intuition to do right, is usually a learning process.
Wow.
For sure.
Very cool. When a startup comes to you, is there any commonalities and roadblocks that you can see like a pattern in, or some consistency in like today's startups? Like, let's call it this year. Like, what are some big roadblocks that you've seen? Are there patterns behind that? Are people struggling with AI? Are they concerned about it? I mean, what are you hearing?
I mean, when a startup comes to me, I tend to find myself doing a lot of the same things. They tend to struggle with like building the foundations of, honestly, it's mostly marketing. They struggle with building the foundations of a website. Even if they have the design skills or technical skills to build the website, they struggle to either do it or see the need to do it to build a really clear narrative for their potential customer. And I think this kind of gets into where, if you're not familiar with marketing or go to market, it can feel like fluff. It can feel like a waste of time, but you're really doing yourself a disservice by not having this really clear narrative of like, why should people care, right? And making sure that that's on the website, that's on your sales call, that's on your social media, wherever you're talking to them, right? I see that as a big problem. And I think people think marketing and they want to just go straight to like ads and things like that. But if you don't have your story right, people don't really want to care, right? You have to give them a reason to care. So that's a big thing that I see quite a bit. Obviously AI is a big topic too, but I think coming down to that narrative, that really the soft skills is what I see a lot.
Wow. Makes sense.
Yeah. What's nice, I feel like like a partner like you guys is I feel like a lot of startups have paralysis of analysis. There's so many software, so many different styles and avenues of marketing and lead generation, all the AI tools that are coming out. It's nice to have someone just help focus, like, this is the foundation. This is what we need now.
Yeah.
Right. And then how do we build upon that?
True.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've really, it's been a learning process for us too, to sell ourselves, like selling, marketing for a product that, that isn't you is easier. It's definitely a reflective process when you have to sell yourself. And I think you're totally right about the kind of like the analysis paralysis, where this is another thing that I would say is probably common that I see in startups, is these founders, like, obviously it's their baby. They care so deeply about this product, and they probably spend 23 out of 24 hours of the day thinking about it. And they want perfection, and they have something that they see in their, in their head that they want. And I really try to emphasize that perfection, one, I don't think exists, right? And the key really is to focus on iteration, right? The first website you make isn't going to be perfect. The first product isn't going to be perfect. Chances are it never will be. You just have to make sure that you're setting yourselves up to iterate, to test it, and to kind of keep improving as you go. So I like to say, like, if we can make something that is a net gain and it's directionally correct, that's a win. And you should keep moving in that cadence, right? And that seems to be like an aha moment for them too, where like it kind of like frees them from this feeling like it has to be perfect. And I think that's also where a lot of entrepreneurs kind of get stuck too, where they feel like it has to be perfect.
Oh yeah, I deal with that. All the different businesses we've
Yeah,
had.
for sure.
Like, oh, we got to launch perfect. And it's like, well.
Yep.
Well, awesome. As we kind of wrap things up, Dani, if there's one actionable tip, something for our audience to kind of noodle on over the night, to think about, to take away from this, what would that be?
I mean, I think, speaking to the entrepreneur, as one myself, as working with startups, I think, it really comes into it, and this is something that I hear a lot just talking to other entrepreneurs, not even clients, is that, you kind of constantly have this moment. I think you go back and forth between being like, am I, should I not be doing this at all? Did I make a mistake? To kind of like having a great day, maybe you close a lead and you feel like a genius, is like really just keep pushing through that and kind of adopt that same iterative mindset where like, kind of focusing on being 1% better every day is more attainable. And there's a lot of opportunities, I think, to give up when you feel like, you feel like you have to keep overcoming these hurdles. And there's been a lot of opportunities for me to give up in this whole journey. And I'm very glad I didn't. And I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs quit. So I'd say, like, really just focus on iterating 1% every day. Don't let one little hurdle knock you off,
Amazing advice. Thank you so much. Keep moving forward.
If people want to connect with you, they wanted to learn more about ProductColab, or just connect with you personally, how would they do that?
Yeah, so our website is ProductColab.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Dani Kellogg. There's not too many Dani Kellogg's out there, so please connect with me. I'd love to chat with anyone. Even shoot me an email, Dani@ProductColab.com. Anything goes. So would love to have a chat.
Awesome. Well,
Amazing.
Dani, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate listening about your story and your business and kind of everything you got going on.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me. It was great chatting.
Thanks, Dani. Wow, that was awesome. I love companies like that.
I do too.
We love the startup world.
Yes.
That probably is a little bit biased too.
Yeah. I personally, what I love the most is the style of work that
Sure.
they're doing.
I
We
agree.
have dealt with so many agencies where it's like,
Oh, that's a great point.
but they're more like, let's collaborate, let's partner, let's actually see what the root problem is. But the biggest thing it always comes down to is relational versus transactional.
That's true.
Right?
That's so true.
Building a relational business
That's
rather
so
than
true.
something that's just transactional.
Yeah.
And you're just serving the machine at that point.
It's powerful, man.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Peak Podcast. If you want to listen to awesome guests just like Dani over at ProductColab, make sure to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you along on the next episode of the Peak Podcast.
See you guys.